Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. I'm Judith Cranus. Our May 20th municipal primary election is fast approaching. Democrats and Republicans will select their candidates for judges, school directors, and township, borough, and city officials. This is the election where Democrats and Republicans choose the candidates who will represent them on the November ballot. However, when there is a question on the ballot, as there is in the Kutztown School District, all registered voters in that district vote on the question. It's not just Democrats and Republicans. Any registered voter should come and vote. To check your voting status, you can go online to vote.pa.gov. And that is the official state Pennsylvania website. It's a government site, very safe. And there you can register to vote. You can change your party. You can locate your polling place, or you can apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. And the deadline to register is May 5th. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is May 13th. Now, the League, in its part, is interviewing those candidates who want to be interviewed in the contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and have the same amount of time to answer them. Let's begin.
Hello, welcome to Candidates Up Front. My name is Kay Herring, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Berks County. And today we are going to be talking to a person who is running for Magisterial District Judge in District 23106. There are two candidates that are competing will be on the ballot this year. This district includes Muhlenberg Township and Laureldale. Both of the candidates are cross-filed, which means they are on the ballot for both the Democrat and Republican Party. They are Jason M. Bowen, who is joining me today, and Colleen Dugan Shearer. Voters in each party will select one to be on the fall ballot. The Magisterial District Judge handles traffic violations, landlord-tenant matters, and civil actions where the claim is less than $12,000. The judge presides at arraignments, sets bail, issues warrants, and performs duties of a similar nature. The term is for 6 years, and the current salary is $113,713. Please note that the opinions expressed in this interview are those of the candidate and are not the opinions of the League of Women Voters or of BCTV. Today, I'm welcoming Jason M. Bowen. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you start off by telling our viewers a little bit about yourself and why are you running for office?
Okay, thank you very much. Again, my name is Jason Bowen, and I'm a candidate for Magisterial District Judge for Muhlenberg Township and Laureldale Borough. The reason I'm running is because my whole life I've been a part of a team. From a young child playing pee-wee sports to high school sports, and then I joined the military after high school. So in the military, I was in the United States Navy for 6 years active duty and 2 years in the active ready reserve. After my time in the military, I went to the police academy in Montgomery County. I graduated in 1998, and I was hired as a patrolman in the borough of North Wales, which is in Montgomery County. About 6 months of serving in North Wales, I got hired in Muhlenberg Township. I've been in Muhlenberg Township ever since March of 1999, so just over 26 years. And in 2021, I was promoted to patrol sergeant, where I'm directly in charge of the night shift, and my job is to make sure my guys have the tools and the training to successfully protect and serve the township residents. So again, like I said, I've always been a part of something that's bigger than me. Being on a team and, gives you accountability, it gives you structure, it gives you discipline. And these are all the traits and the qualities that I'm going to bring to the bench. Even though I will be the district judge, I'll still be a part of the Berks County criminal justice system, again, part of the team. And I've served in a uniform my entire adult life, and just going to keep giving back to the public.
Thank you. You've talked a little bit about your education and your background, and why don't you talk a little bit more, maybe even more specifically being a police officer, like what does that type of experience help you to bring to this position, the district judge?
Oh, absolutely. So being a police officer, you're hands-on. Obviously, I'm very familiar with criminal arrests. Working the streets of Muhlenberg for 26 years. I've had thousands of cases that went through the district judge office there at Judge Patton's. So being a police officer, you're very familiar with criminal law, criminal procedure, and you're out there, you're working with the people. You're dealing with the people, good and bad. So with my life experience on the street and dealing with the public and being an officer, it's given me the ability to just really, develop some, let's say traits, but it gives you a little bit of empathy, it gives you a little bit of compassion, it makes you a well-rounded person. I've been to a lot of schools as well. I did some college, I did some criminal justice through RAC. I did not get my degree, but I've had several schools in the military and also police schools, such as interviewing and interrogation, POSIT class, which is a supervisor class, evidence technician. Those are the guys that go around and collect the fingerprints and do stuff like that. I was a DARE instructor, and my most prized title, in my opinion, is I was a police motorcycle instructor. So,
great. What personal qualities do you have that you would help you in this position and help you to be an effective district judge?
Well, I can be firm and assertive when I need to be, but also, like I said, I can be empathetic and compassionate as well, because seeing what the people have gone through, they've gone through very traumatic situations sometimes, and sometimes good people have a bad day. And the ability for a district judge to determine someone that's, just went through a traumatic experience and had a very negative, something going wrong in their life, that doesn't make them a criminal. It doesn't make them a bad person. So I feel like, I, as a district judge, will be able to talk to that person, ask the correct questions, find out what's going on in their life, and, determine, hey, is this person, did they really just have a really bad day? Did they make a mistake? Or am I going to see them in my courtroom every month? There's programs for first-time offenders that I support, such as the ARD program, and essentially is a program that lets offenders go through the program. If they complete it and they don't get in trouble again, it wipes it off the record. So those are some of the qualities and things that I will bring to the bench that I think will be very good for the people.
Thank you. So as a district judge, you will deal with matters of civil law and criminal law. Please explain the difference and give us some examples of each.
Okay. So civil law is essentially landlord-tenant disputes. If a landlord needs to evict a tenant for failure to pay or breaking the contract on something on the lease, the landlord would come into the district judge's office and would file a complaint against the tenant. Those issues are heard by the district judge. Also, contracts between private individuals that somebody defaults on, you would sue that person in small claims court. So that's the difference between, that's the civil part. So obviously criminal law, crimes are, that we deal with mostly in Muhlenberg Township. We have a lot of thefts. We have a lot of retail thefts. We have a lot of domestics, DUIs, things of that nature. anything where you can be sentenced to jail time, for breaking the law is criminal, and there is a difference between criminal and civil.
Great. So if you could please explain both the district judge's role in handling a criminal issue. Let's talk about the criminal side first, and then we'll talk about what you do for the civil issues. But what's the role of you as the district judge, and maybe even the office? What happens there? Why would people visit? And specifically now in the case with criminal issues, what would your steps be?
Okay. So initially, when an officer makes an arrest, they're going to bring that defendant before the judicial authority, which would be myself. At that time, the officer files a criminal complaint. And what that is the criminal complaint is the charges that are levied against the defendant. So what I would do at that point would be to read the criminal complaint and the charges that are that the defendant is being charged with, and that's called the preliminary arraignment. So at their preliminary arraignment, after reading the charges against them, you would give them the right to the counsel, and also then you would set bail. And after all that's taken care of, then you would set a date for a preliminary hearing.
Okay. And then also, what is the district judge's role in handling a civil issue?
So when somebody files a landlord-tenant claim or a contract claim, you would come in, or they would come in, they would file the complaint, you would set a date for the hearing. Both parties would come in, they would each give their side of the story, and it's based on the preponderance of the evidence. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt for civil law. So the judge would determine, basically, would listen to both sides of the story, whatever evidence was presented, and make a judgment based on the preponderance of the evidence. It's not,
It's to
beyond
look at,
right. It's not beyond reasonable doubt when it's civil.
Okay. And as you were talking about, the district judge decides whether there is sufficient evidence for a criminal case to go to trial. But what are those things that you have to consider when you make that decision?
Right. So if a person is arrested for an offense, they're going to come in, obviously, after the arraignment, at the preliminary hearing. What you're looking for is called prima facie evidence. Is the person that's charged in the courtroom, are they the one that was arrested for the crime? And is there enough evidence to send that case to the Court of Common Pleas for trial? So it's very cut and dry. It's entry-level court, and it's basically, is that the person that did it, and is there enough evidence to convict them at trial to go to court?
Okay. Here's a question I think that everyone has heard about, that a bail is set, and it is the district judge that sets bail. What criteria do you use, though, to determine whether bail is needed, and then what criteria do you use to determine how high the bail should be?
All right. Yeah, bail is set, in my opinion, should be set on the severity of the crime. What was the crime that was committed, and is the person a risk to the victim, and is the person a flight risk? And are they a risk to the community? So based on the crime committed and the person's criminal history, their ties to the community, there's several different factors that go into setting bail, but I believe it's very important to serious felony crimes that a high bail is set.
Okay. Are there community problems that a district judge can help to alleviate or get involved and have an influence in the community?
Oh, absolutely. Codes are huge. There's a lot of codes issues throughout the township, and also ordinance enforcement. But going back to the codes, codes can be very pivotal in helping the township overall, and the district judge also is important in that. But you got to understand why people are neglecting their properties. Is there an underlying cause? Was a person in the hospital? Were they sick? Are they elderly? Are they unable to take care of their property? So, we want to find out what's going on. We don't want to just, throw the book at everybody and, you're a bad person because you're not taking care of your property. We need to find out what's going on and, get to the underlying cause and the roots of it. And so the judge can, have some leeway with that.
Okay. And as part of the judiciary, what can you do both on and off the bench to ensure that all Pennsylvanians have access to the courts?
Well, I tell everybody that it's the people's court because, the taxpayers fund the court and it's always available to them. So that's one thing. And another thing is I try to volunteer out in the community and people, if they recognize me, they know who I am. And I have conversations with them about, everybody asks, questions of police officers when they know you're a police officer or they know you're running for judge. Everybody, has some issue that they want to talk to you about. So, I try to give them the best information I can. And, like I said, it's the people's court. It's paid for and funded by the taxpayers. So I tell them, if you need to come in and talk to the judge, say hi, bring me a cup of coffee, whatever the case might be.
And that sort of, I think, answers or talks about really what the next question was what can you do both on and off the bench to build trust in the Pennsylvania's court? And that's what you were talking about, really building relationships with people and letting them know what happens in the courts. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like I said, I volunteer for a couple different organizations. I try to get out in the community and do as much as I can. Every Monday I go over to the Sunset Townhome Apartments in Shillington. We do food drives over there. It's basically we just, some of the local businesses drop off food and we bag it up and we give it to the elderly residents. So we do stuff like that, and people, they see me and they know who I am, and we talk, and if they have a question, I'll answer it and stuff like that. So I do that as well, and I do some other things too in the community.
Tell us about the area that this district serves. It's Muhlenberg Township and Laureldale, right?
Yes, ma'am. So it's Muhlenberg Township and Laureldale Borough. And if you're not familiar with the area, which I'm sure most people are, it's from Fish Street Highway at the Hotel District all the way up to the other side of Walmart is the north-south. And then from the river all the way over to the mountains is pretty much our jurisdiction.
Great. And you talked a little bit about your volunteer and community work. Is there anything else that you want to mention that you do as far as volunteering?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm a member of the Keystone Military Families. It's an organization. It's a great organization. It's located in Shoemakersville, Pennsylvania, and I'm trying to get it more locally to Muhlenberg or the Reading area. But that's a battle for another day. But the Keystone Military Families is great. It's a food pantry, and it provides food, supplies, household goods to veterans and veterans' families. So they do special, holiday drives for the kids of the veterans and the family veterans. Like Easter, we're doing Easter baskets and things like that. And Christmas, they do a whole thing too. So it's a really great organization. It gives back to the community. It brings a lot of people from outside of the area into Berks County as well. And it's just a fabulous organization. If you don't know anything about it, I would hope you would just look into it. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we have a couple of minutes. You can make a closing statement, and I want to ask the last question. Maybe you can answer this and then talk about why voters should vote for you. But what is the importance of the district judge, and why should it matter to the average voter?
Well, that's a great question. So the position, in my opinion, is very important. Like I said, you need a judge that has some empathy and some compassion, that knows what people are going through. You also have to have a judge that can be firm, but also fair and impartial. I possess all these qualities or traits. I can talk to anybody. My experience on the streets over the years as a police officer, dealing with people, seeing them at their lowest, and also, helping people when they need it the most and being there for them. I've ridden all the highs and the lows. I've seen everything. So there's nothing that's going to come through my courtroom that's going to shock me. Like I said, I'm I'm down to earth. I'm easy to talk to, but I'll be firm definitely when I need to be firm. And like I said, at the district judge level, you can't treat everybody as a criminal. Not everybody's a criminal. People make mistakes. People have a bad day, and you got to get to the underlying causes of what's going on in people's lives. And I'm going to ask those questions. And this whole experience has just made me a better police officer in general, and a better person, honestly, because being a police officer and being on the night shift, you get so jaded. And then going around for the last 2 months and meeting a bunch of people and seeing how good people are in Muhlenberg, it's just been a fabulous experience.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Jason, for sharing your views with us today. We've been talking with Jason Bowen. Viewers, please remember there are 2 candidates for Magisterial District Judge in the District 23106, and that serves Muhlenberg Township and Laureldale. They will both be on the Democrat and Republican ballots. It's Jason Bowen and Colleen Dugan Shearer. Excuse me. You may vote for one. You will find candidates up front on BCTV, its website, and its YouTube page. And if you need information on any of the candidates running in this primary, go to vote411.org. Thank you very much.